Have you ever wondered why Jews and Arabs have been in constant conflict for thousands of years? Perhaps behind those brutal wars lies an ancient secret, hidden within the very pages of the sacred scriptures we read every day. Prepare yourself, because this story will reveal a shocking truth about the origins of the conflict between Israel and the Islamic world, while also revealing a chilling prophecy about the fate that awaits. The two sons of patriarch Abraham, Isaac and Ishmael, sparked a conflict that not only fractured their family but also helped shape the destiny of all humanity. In the book of Genesis, there is a prophecy recorded that sends shivers down one's spine. The West will oppose everyone, and in turn, everyone will oppose the West. Genesis chapter 16, verse 12. Could this be a warning foretelling the very events unfolding before our eyes? And more importantly, is the Bible reminding us that the day of judgment is near, when all things will be made clear? Let's embark on this journey of discovery together, because what you're about to hear may change the way you see the world, and even your own beliefs. An ancient Jewish principle holds that the actions of ancestors are a foreshadowing for their descendants. Simply put, the lives of the patriarchs were not merely historical events, but also prophecies about the future of their descendants. Prophetic typology. The researchers used both methods to analyze the conflict between Israel and Islamic countries, yielding highly surprising results. Here's why this makes sense. Isaac and his mother, Sarah, symbolize the nation of Israel, while in Islamic tradition, Ishmael and his mother, Hagar, represent the Muslim community. Through that lens, everything appeared perfectly aligned and harmonious. The conflict stems from God's promise to the patriarch Abraham, when he bestowed blessings upon his descendants. I will make you into a great nation, and through you, all peoples on earth will be blessed. But there was one problem: Lady Sarah could not bear children. In those days, a woman's worth was often measured by her ability to conceive. Sarah's infertility had become a lingering pain and the source of endless humiliation. Princess, how can you be a princess if you couldn't bear Abraham an heir? Time slipped away quietly, both growing older, the promise of a child slowly fading into the distance, becoming harder to fulfill. Finally, Sarah was utterly desperate. It was she who suggested a solution to Abraham, following the common custom of that time. The Lord has not granted me to be a mother. Go to my maidservant. Genesis, chapter 16, verse 2. She gave her maidservant Hagar to Abraham to bear a child in her place. It was an act born of desperation, but that solution quickly brought more trouble. Sarah, feeling inferior, began to treat Hagar harshly. Pregnant and rejected, Hagar had no choice but to run away. She slipped into the desert, fleeing from everything. In the vast, desolate wilderness, Hagar stood alone, her future bleak as if there were no way out. But in her darkest moment, she did not meet death. Instead, she encountered a divine reunion. An angel of the Lord appeared by a spring in the wilderness and spoke directly to her. Return to your mistress and submit to her. I will make your descendants so numerous that they cannot be counted. God hears. In the book of Genesis, there is a prophecy that helps explain the era we are living in. Ishmael is portrayed with a character that will forever be etched into posterity. He is the very embodiment of a wanderer lost among humanity. Ty will oppose everyone, and everyone will oppose him in return. He will live in hostility with all his brothers. Pause for a moment and reflect. This age-old saying seems to perfectly capture the essence of today's news headlines. It may sound a bit blasphemous, but don't forget that Ishmael was also blessed by God. What does a wild donkey mean? In the ancient world, the wild donkey was regarded as the ultimate embodiment of unyielding freedom, a symbol of fierce independence, bowing to no one and roaming freely wherever it pleased. That prophecy depicts a nation destined to be endowed with an indomitable vitality to overcome all hardships, yet also condemned to live in endless, unrelenting contradictions. Hagar returned and gave birth to a son, and Abraham named the child Ishmael. This boy later became the ancestor of the Arabs, and it was from this lineage that Islam eventually emerged. S faithful promise. Can you imagine the joy and peace that overflowed in the patriarch? For 13 long years, Ishmael was his only son, his firstborn, the center of his universe, and the heir to all his plans. Through this child, Abraham saw the future of a mighty nation. The prophecy described Ishmael as a wild flame, a free spirit that could not be easily tamed. Today, this characteristic is clearly reflected in the pride and resilience of Arab nations. But the prophecy carries a dual meaning. It foretells that he will oppose everyone, while also predicting that everyone will turn against him. It is truly disheartening to foresee these unending conflicts manifesting so starkly on the two painful fronts of our modern era. The prophecy is not solely reserved for external enemies. The history of the Islamic world is also marked by profound internal conflicts, particularly between the Sunni and Shia sects. Modern wars like those in Syria or Yemen are heartbreaking proof of conflict among those who share the same bloodline, once again affirming the warning that Ishmael's hostility will target everyone, even their own flesh and blood. The prophecy further clarifies the origin of the conflict with Israel since Isaac's birth. Many years have passed, and now Sarah has turned 90, she has completely lost faith in God's promise. She reluctantly accepted that her legacy would be passed down through Ishmael, while feeling utterly forsaken by God. But one unexpected day, 3 unfamiliar visitors suddenly stopped by Abraham's tent. "I will return here, and Sarah, your wife, will bear you a son." Sarah sat in the tent, eavesdropping, then burst into laughter. But it wasn't a joyful laugh. It was a bitter, distrustful chuckle. She no longer dared to hold on to hope. Abraham's reaction was truly surprising. When God affirmed that the covenant would be fulfilled through this new child, his first thought turned to Ishmael. Instead of rejoicing, he anxiously pleaded with God, praying that Ishmael might live under his blessing. This is the reaction of a grieving father who loves his child deeply but also fears the impending conflicts. Yet, God still kept his promise. Laughter. For a while, joy overflowed, but gradually grew into escalating tension. At the feast celebrating Isaac's weaning, conflict suddenly erupted when Sarah saw Ishmael mocking his younger brother. Here's an important linguistic detail. The Hebrew word for mockery shares the same root as the name Isaac. Just fooling around, he was genuinely challenging Isaac. That is, only the eldest child truly inherits. For Sarah, this was the last straw. Drive out this slave woman and her son at once. Because his son shall never share in the inheritance with my son, Isaac. The Bible records that Abraham was deeply grieved because he loved his son so dearly. The person's heart has shattered. God instructed him to obey Sarah, while also promising that he would make Ishmael into a mighty nation. No matter how painful it was, Abraham kept his promise. The next morning, he gave bread and water to Hagar and Ishmael, then sent them into the wilderness. That separation was not merely a physical distance, but also a confirmation of the emotional and spiritual rift between them. The father was forced to make a painful choice between his children. Abraham's anguish at being separated from Ishmael mirrors the historical wounds that both peoples still bear to this day. For many Muslim nations and the Palestinian people, the establishment of Israel in 1948 and their forced displacement from their homeland remains a deep and painful wound. This disaster is the modern version of the story of Hagar and Ishmael being cast into the desert. God promised to bless Ishmael after witnessing Abraham's devoted heart toward his son. But suddenly, a child was born, and in just one night, Ishmael's future completely collapsed. Here are the 2 translation options as requested. Today, we witness the same thing. The existence of Israel is often portrayed as a threat to Islamic identity in neighboring countries. Sarah's demand that her son not inherit equally with my son has become a topic in the most extreme speeches today. For example, when Iranian leaders openly call for the annihilation of Israel, a statement directly quoted from their founding charter, including a statement attributed to the Prophet Muhammad, which calls for the use of violence. This statement is called a hadith, affirming that the day of judgment will not come until Muslims fight against the Jews. And the Muslims will pursue them until the Jews hide behind rocks or tree trunks. O Muslims, there is a Jew hiding behind me, come and kill him. This hadith is cited in the charter of the Palestinian political organization, Hamas, and continues to be disseminated even more openly. The passage states that every rock and tree will betray the Jews, except for the thorn apple tree, which is the only exception. Traditionally, the hawthorn tree is associated with the tree of the Jews. A few years ago, at an event in Palestine, an imam quoted this hadith. The statement that the Jews had known of this prophecy. Therefore, they are planting thousands of hawthorn trees around the settlement to create a refuge when needed. Though the parting between Isaac, the symbol of Israel, and Ishmael, the representative of the Arabs, was filled with sorrow. God has a unique plan for each person, no two are alike. S covenant differs from Isaac. The covenant with God. More importantly, Isaac alone was the one who received the covenant. A covenant is not merely a promise, but also a sacred bond, a special relationship between God and his chosen people. Through this covenant, God promised Abraham a special relationship, and through him, blessings would flow to all his future generations. But why choose Isaac and not Ishmael, even though Ishmael was the firstborn? That is a divine choice we can never fully comprehend. God has spoken very clearly on this matter. True, but your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you shall name him Isaac. I will establish a covenant with it as an everlasting promise for its descendants to come. Genesis chapter 17, verse 19. Then, he once again affirmed that the true lineage would be traced through Isaac. This decision affirms a core tenet in the Bible. Divine choice does not depend on human merit or status. Ishmael named the religion for him, and he also named the religion for himself. Ishmael was born through the planning and efforts of Sarah and Abraham. Yet, Isaac was born by a miracle, the result of divine intervention in two aged and barren bodies. A spiritual covenant always comes with miracles, not something born of human scheming. Ishmael is blessed to become great among the world. Here are the natural English translations of the given Vietnamese text. The concept of a covenantal people, a chosen nation, has always been at the core of Jewish identity throughout history. That is their pride, the reason for their existence, yet it is also the very source of conflict with a world that often rejects such an idea. However, God made it clear that even though Ishmael was not the child of the covenant, he was still under his providential care. Before being driven away, when Abraham pleaded for his firstborn son, God directly answered with a promise of greatness. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. I have heard your prayer. Listen now, I will bless Ishmael, making his descendants fruitful and exceedingly numerous. That promise was miraculously fulfilled in the wilderness after Hagar and Ishmael were cast out from the household of the patriarch Abraham. When Hagar and the boy Ishmael were nearly exhausted from thirst, an angel of God appeared to rescue them. He not only gave them a well to save their lives, but also bestowed abundant blessings upon them. Do not be afraid, for God has heard the cry of your child. I will make them a mighty nation. The blessing for Ishmael was earthly greatness and material wealth, while Isaac received the promise of the spiritual covenant. Ishmael was promised strength, numerous descendants, and vast lands. He became the father of 12 princes, much like the 12 sons of Jacob, who founded the 12 tribes of Israel. Some people see this promise fulfilled through the rise and flourishing of the Arabs. Over the centuries, the Arabs have built mighty empires, a brilliant culture, and a profound influence across the world. But what is surprising is that the Jewish Torah and the Islamic Quran have different versions of the life of the patriarch Abraham. The dispute between his two sons continued even after their separation, an event recorded in the sacred scriptures. The struggle for succession has turned into a battle over who gets to tell the true story of God. Islam holds that previous scriptures, such as the Torah of the Jews, have been altered by humans over time. Thus, the Quran considers itself the final and most authentic message from God. In the Bible, Abraham's greatest test of faith was when God commanded him to sacrifice his son Isaac. This was the pivotal moment to confirm the covenant between him and God. But in Islam, the story is entirely different. According to Islamic tradition, the son Abraham intended to sacrifice was not Isaac but Ishmael. Why has this change occurred? How significant is it? Being the child of sacrifice also means becoming the foremost inheritor of its spirit. By placing Ishmael in this position, Islam made him the center of its greatest faith journey. The ancestral lineage inherited and passed down spiritual values, which ultimately led to the birth of the Prophet Muhammad. This is not a trivial change, but a way to affirm that this covenant truly belongs to them. A notable point is that the Quran does not explicitly mention the name of the son who was to be sacrificed, but Islamic scholars unanimously affirm that it was Ishmael. This difference has caused profound conflict. Judaism and Christianity continue the story through Isaac. While Islam claims to be a correction of that narrative, Sam, Abraham and Ishmael are regarded as the founders of their most sacred land, Mecca. The struggle to determine the truth has led to grave consequences, even sparking real violence. The dispute over the holy sites in Jerusalem is the clearest evidence. The holiest site in Judaism, the Temple Mount, is now the location of two of the most important mosques in the world. It's like one layer of history stacked upon another, where gaining control becomes a symbol of the struggle for religious truth. An intriguing detail that adds tension to the story is what lies hidden beneath the stone ring, Jerusalem's sacred golden church. There stood a boulder renowned as the cornerstone rock. According to Jewish tradition, this is not merely a rock. It is believed to be the spiritual center of the world, the place where Adam was created and where Abraham prepared to sacrifice Isaac. And in the most sacred place of Solomon's temple of old. In Islamic tradition, this rock is the site where the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven during his miraculous night journey. The same spot, the same rock, yet it holds two contrasting stories. This is not about one story growing out of another, but two scriptures intersecting at a single point. Another interesting detail is the famous Western Wall. Many mistakenly believe it to be the wall of the ancient Jewish temple. But in reality, this is the last remaining fortress wall of the Temple Mountain complex. For the Jewish people, this is the closest place they can come to pray at the sacred site, a symbol of both the pain of loss and the enduring hope they carry within. For Muslims, this wall is called Buraq, where the Prophet Muhammad tethered his miraculous steed before ascending to heaven. This is precisely why Jerusalem has become the focal point of fierce conflict. People are fighting not just for the land, but for the right to shape history. This is another chapter in the painful and protracted conflict to determine whether the story of Isaac or Ishmael holds the ultimate claim to this most sacred land on earth. But the prophecy about the end of the conflict carried no hint of bitterness. On the contrary, no matter how implausible it seemed, the longing for peace always remained. Through countless historical upheavals and conflicts, the Bible still unveils an unexpected vision, igniting hope. When their father Abraham passed away, the scripture records an important detail. Isaac and Ishmael, his two sons, buried him together. After decades of separation without a word exchanged, Isaac and Ishmael reunited to bury their father together. At that moment, they were just two heartbroken children. In Jewish tradition, the order of the names Isaac and Ishmael is a significant detail. Ishmael, as the eldest, willingly allowed Isaac, the designated heir, to take precedence over him. This act is regarded as one of great nobility and profound generosity. This act is seen as a prophetic message to future generations. Peace is entirely achievable. According to Jewish tradition, this is seen as a sign that in the future, the descendants of Ishmael may wage war against the descendants of Isaac. The burial shows that no matter what, God did not abandon Ishmael, and both were Abraham's sons. This hope stems from the blessing that God has bestowed upon both brothers. Though the spiritual covenant belonged to Isaac, the promise to make Ishmael into a mighty nation was never revoked. In today's era, although we still cannot fully resolve conflicts, some recent events are seen as the beginning of mutual understanding between Jews and Muslims. Amid the flood of news about war and tensions with Iran, the seemingly impossible has become reality. That is the direct echo from the funeral, where Isaac and Ishmael stood side by side. In recent years, some Arab countries such as the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain have taken distinct steps. The two sides signed a peace treaty to normalize relations with Israel. The most interesting and noteworthy aspect is the name they gave to these treaties, the Abraham Accords. For the first time in decades, modern diplomacy is not focused on conflict but actively acknowledges the shared ancestry of Jews and Muslims. It is a public acknowledgement that, despite theological and political differences, they share the same roots. A lesser-known example of harmony lies in the profound and mystical similarities between these two religions. Followers of Jewish Kabbalah and Islamic Sufism often share a profound empathy, almost as if speaking a common spiritual language. Their purpose is not to prove their religion is right, but to realize they are striving toward the same common goal. Setting aside personal ego to merge as one with the divine. United by a shared purpose, they communicate through a harmonious spiritual language. Kabbalah and Sufism both describe the soul's journey in a similar way. Consider life as the soul's journey of elevation, passing through different spiritual levels or realms to draw ever closer to the divine. Both describe God as an infinite and mysterious light, while humans are like tiny rays emanating from that divine source, always yearning to return to their origin. Love is the root of language, the heart of both traditions. They speak of a fervent love for God, surpassing all earthly emotions, a love that yearns for absolute harmony. The general principle is quite clear. When the journey of seeking is personal and spiritual in nature, labels such as Jewish or Muslim become less significant compared to the direct experience of the sacred. Somehow, the mystics achieved what politicians often fail to accomplish. They met at Abraham's tomb, both acknowledging that they worshipped the same one true God, the sacred deity of the Middle Eastern ancestors. If they share so many similarities, why is their history filled with conflicts? As mentioned, the echoes of our ancestors' deeds continue to resonate through the actions of their descendants. In this story, we see two paths. One is the endless road of conflict, the other is the arduous journey of reconciliation between people. But the Bible points to another path, a solution that relies not on politics or human will, but on the intervention of the divine, the coming of Jesus Christ. The belief went to religion presents Jesus not only as a prophet, but also as the ultimate answer to humanity's division. How did Jesus resolve conflict? The core idea is that Jesus does not take sides in the conflict between Isaac and Ishmael. Instead, he established a new family, where former identities no longer serve as barriers dividing people. St. Paul writes that Christ is our source of peace, the one who united both into one and broke down the dividing wall of hostility. This wall symbolizes the deep-seated hatred between the two sides, rooted in both history and religious differences. According to Christianity, when united with Christ, one receives a new identity that transcends earthly identity. They were no longer primarily Jews or Arabs, descendants of Isaac or Ishmael, but had become members of a new spiritual family. At what point did this reconciliation occur? That is the crucial issue. From this perspective, the reconciliation process is divided into two stages. The initial phase is happening right now, at this very moment. Peace and unity arise from the hearts of those who dare to walk this path. Expressed through the communities of believers from Jewish and Arab perspectives. The people, despite being surrounded by political conflicts, still live in harmony as brothers and sisters in the same faith. Prove that we can absolutely overcome divisions. However, a thorough and definitive solution to conflicts on a global scale is still considered an event of the future. The Bible teaches that this will be fully accomplished when Jesus returns, also known as the Second Coming. At that time, he will establish everlasting peace throughout the world. How did Jesus accomplish this? The Bible says this peace will come when a new humanity is formed. In a deeply meaningful passage, St. Paul expressed the idea of tearing down the wall of hatred. Christ came to dissolve all hatred. In just 9 days, a new humanity was forged from both sides, bringing forth peace. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 15 and 16. This hope is tied to the prophecies of the Messiah in the Old Testament. The time in the future when the wolf will live in peace with the lamb. They will neither harm nor destroy anywhere on all my holy mountain. But this is not the only prophecy about Christ. As a mediator of conflicts between Jews and Muslims, the prophecy about Prince Bin is quoted from the book of Isaiah. It is the key to understanding the solution proposed by Christianity. This title reflects the core mission of Jesus. It is not about being an earthly king to win battles, but to bring peace to the soul and spiritual life. For a child is born to us, a son is given to humanity. The right to rule shall be granted to the man, and he shall be honored as the father of all people, the Prince of Peace. Human dominion and peace shall expand endlessly, without cease. To end a cycle of hatred stemming from YCA, Jesus introduced a revolutionary spiritual principle against all the worries and suspicions of the Jewish and Muslim people. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Desert or the reunion at Father.